Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you for your patience during our technical difficulties. For our audience members, both here in person and online, we have started a second new recording. So when you go to the website tonight or tomorrow when it finishes loading up, there'll be two. We'll try to splice them together so there's only one, but we'll always have two as a record. There may have been just a couple minutes that were missed before we noticed that there was no longer live streaming. So I wanted to give Mr. Pantera the opportunity to share anything that they think that maybe your comments didn't quite make that recording. If you want to repeat your comments, you can.
I believe I was saying that I know what it's like to close the schools. My very first job was at Gold Dust, used to be Choya, and that's closed. My children went to Foothills, both of them, that's closed. My son was part of the Vista Verde community, the school we're talking about. And when I was at Eagle Ridge, I taught there for many years. When I first started there, I was in a portable. One of my portables was in the parking lot. Okay, cars, you could hear them going by. You know, they're picking up kids in that and students. And then it grew. We had all those new families coming in, and that's when they built Eagle Ridge like it is now to hold 900,000 people. Whatever, it was huge. It's huge. It was great. But then again, the kids grew up and they moved out, and then our school got smaller and smaller, and got to a point where even I, as a gifted specialist, couldn't be full time at my school anymore. I had to be, half at one school, half at another, half at Air Libra, which also closed, half at Palomino and such, right? Well, when I'm talking and I'm making decisions, I feel it. I know what you're going through, you parents, you teachers, anyone out there. And whenever I make that vote, however these forums and public hearings turn out, okay, when I make that vote, it's not going to be from some heartless bean counter. My heart's going to be at 100%. Just want to let you all know that.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Oh, thank you. I want to echo what everyone has said. This is heart-wrenching, heartbreaking for all of you and for all of us and for everyone in the district. Mrs. Case and I have been on this board long enough that this isn't our first go around with this. And we have heard from people time and again, it's, don't break up my community, and that's not what we are trying to do. But I remember early on when we were a growing district, but then there might need to be some shifts. It was just boundary changes. We'd have lots of talk about boundary changes, and we would hear the exact same things about don't break up my school. Please don't make these shifts. But we needed to for balance. But unfortunately, with declines, which is, again, as Dr. Bales pointed out, not unique to PV, you have to make the harder choices, the harder decisions. And I do want to thank everybody who's here. I appreciate you speaking from your heart, whether it's breaking. I do want to say that whatever vote we take is another step in this journey. It isn't the end. This vote is to hear more. And I do remember very clearly, I don't remember the specifics, and I apologize for that, but during one of the processes, we got a lot of different scenarios in terms of, well, we could try, A, B, and C. And the feedback from community members, the board turned to cabinet and said, well, maybe D, E, and F. Could you tell us what happens if we were to do that? And there were indeed changes made to the final maps and recommendations. So yes, we want to hear more. I absolutely appreciate the work of the committee. The hundreds of hours that I think when you look at everybody on the committee and all of the legwork and all of the data that they needed to go through. And as Ms. Corey pointed out, many of the committee members are affected by the recommendations they made. But they felt that this is what was in the best interest of our district moving forward as a district. So, as Mr. Pantera just said, we do understand. We do know what you're going through. I mean, I think the first catalyst for me as a parent was when my oldest son was in elementary school, and all of a sudden we were going to be boundaried out of the elementary school. And unlike now, where we do hold hearings and we do, get feedback, we just got letters that said, hey, if you're in 5th or 6th, you're fine. 4th and below, nope, you're gone. And the community said no. And we talked to admin, and I think that was part of the catalyst for this process we now go through. So we do listen, and we will listen. And we want to hear your questions. We want to hear, your feedback, because like I said, once upon a time it was A, B, and C, and then we did get to D, E, and F. So we do want to hear. And I probably had a couple questions, but I think in the interests of what we need to do, I will stop there.
I have some comments. First of all, it's a motion to approve the scheduling of a community forum and public hearing on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. It's just to approve to have a hearing. It is not a decision to a final decision. It's an approved to listen to more people. So, as Mrs. Greenberg stated, she and I have gone through many of these. My own children, my 4 oldest attended Village Vista, and I got to be on the school board when we closed Village Vista as an elementary school. So I totally understand. And also I live 2 houses down from a charter school, which is in the boundaries of Whispering Wind, which my children left Village Vista and went to, we were boundaried into Whispering Wind. And those schools have gone down in enrollment. We had a perfectly good school there, and they built a charter school 2 houses down from me. So this is happening for a long time. There's not any rhyme or reason to these things. The heartfelt comments from tonight, we do listen, and this is very difficult. This is not something I take lightly. It's one of my least favorite things to do in the whole wide world, even probably more so than going to the dentist, and that has to be really hard for me. But this is a very difficult thing, very emotional. We have no crystal balls that tell us where we'll have growth, where we'll have change. I mentioned this at the study session on Tuesday. The boundaries of my church kind of align with the boundaries of our school district. And we've gone from 9 units down to 6 units over time. We built up from 4 up to 9, and then we've gone back to 6. because of we don't have the youth we used to. So it's kind of a mirror of what is happening in the district. It's very hard to change boundaries for anything. Schools are a community. I understand that. This is very difficult. I will say, we've talked about the committee who went through all of this for over 6 months. And I talked to a committee member and I said, how many hours have you spent? And she kind of added up hours and she goes, oh, over 40 hours on this committee. That's a lot of time spent. And I know the very variety of subjects they covered in great depth. And from busing to special programs to community effect. I mean, this went on for a long time. And one of the reasons I appreciate the way it was done is that I have heard of some of the rumors that were fabricated just trying to figure out what they were doing. And some of them were so outlandish. So one of the reasons that this went through this process is so there'd be less rumors going on. And I've heard that there would have been the opposite happening, but I agree with the way it was done. We do have empty land north of the 101, so we need to leave those areas open for growth. We do not have a crystal ball. We do the best we can with many, many, many hours of research into things. We have to go by what has happened in the past, but we do know the growth rate of number of children in a family has drastically changed in our area. In my own neighborhood, I had 7 children attend our schools, and I still live in the same house. Across the street had 2, they had 2, they have 4, they all live in the same houses. Next door had 3. They all went through our schools, but no children live in those houses now. So we have lots of adults in the community, but not as many children, and the birth rate has gone down tremendously. So one of the things we're tasked with as school board members is to be fiscally responsible, and it's a very hard thing to have school closures. It's one of my least favorite things to do. But with that said, if there's no more comments, do you have a comment? Okay.
So I did want to make a comment. I had a similar concern that one of the community members about Desert Springs 1982. It was built because I looked up and Sunrise Middle was also built in 1982 and that wasn't on the closure. But Dr. Bells was kind enough in my email today to provide some clarification that there was multiple factors that were involved, not just because I took it that we were closing Desert Springs in the study session that because it was an older school. And so that to me didn't make sense because there were many schools built around in the early 80s. So that was one point. I would like to request that any public hearings be made at 5 p.m., no earlier than 5 p.m. because teachers and parents that work outside the home would want to come to these. And so I would, just ask my fellow board members to consider a later time rather than a 2 o'clock or a 3 o'clock when we don't want our teachers to be taking PTO. And then my final point was in regards to the 8 months, I want to make it clear, I think the committee did a phenomenal job and there's no easy answers for this. But where I had issue with 8 months of closed meetings, and I know President Case mentioned rumors could have been avoided if it were open to the public, in my opinion. So that's my, but we all have differing opinions, and those were my only comments. Thank you.
President Case, Mrs. Christensen, and governing board members, the regional forums, as well as the Tuesday, January 23rd, 24, public hearing are scheduled to begin at 6 o'clock. in the evening.
Okay. Did you have another question, Mrs. Baker?
Yeah, I have a comment and a question, and then I'll be done. My comment is that we can't solely blame some of this on declining birth rates. PV has the highest concentration of vouchers, or one of the highest concentration of vouchers, ESAs in the state. $25 million goes to these vouchers. And that is harming us. And that is not a decision we can make. That is a legislative decision. But that needs to be pointed out because it's damaging our schools and our children's education. My question, though, is I heard a couple of people say that Desert Springs is 65% open enrolled and that they didn't know if they would go to the schools that they were assigned. Can anyone speak to that? Does anyone have data on that or information on that?
Dr. Juris?
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. That's something we could get to you outside of the meeting.
Thank you,
I
Dr.
do
Juris.
believe that that number is accurate, though. I mean, I've heard it, shared with me before, a high percentage of open enrollment there. So I wouldn't doubt that that's probably close.
I seem to
Any
remember-
other comments?
To follow up, I just seem to remember at the study session, like most of our schools, 50% open enrollment.
Mr.
Okay.
Panterick, Mrs. Case, and governing board members, that is true. Across the district, we average about 50% open enrollment. And so people are making choices to go. And you can see that when you are at drop off and pickup. The queue at our schools is very different now than when we built a lot of these schools in the 70s, 80s. They don't have the parking lots. I mean, just look at how we built Sky Crossing now versus the older schools in the South. We have a different queue to accommodate the transportation. People are making choices to drive and drop off and pick up. And it's a very different environment than it was when many of these schools were built.
Any other comments? Okay, so I read this, and you, what's that? Oh, Mrs. Greenberg?
Yeah, and I don't know if Dr. Cheers, maybe you can help with this. And looking at that slide where we had from the demographer with the K6, it does look like Desert Springs, for example, has a large amount of open enroll, but not necessarily from out of the district. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak as to what that data means. There's the
Okay.
attend versus reside, where he provides us with the data of how many students actually live in the boundaries versus how many attend. And then there's obviously the net difference that would be impacted by open enrollment. I think I would like to speak and get that information a little bit more clear before I answer that, unless Ms. Merrigan has.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that number that you're seeing is a delta of attend versus reside versus the actual number of students who are open enrolled.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we done with questions for now? Are we ready to take a vote then? This is only the vote to schedule a community forum. That is what this vote is for. So all those in favor of having a community forum, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Yeah, so I want to just be clear that I do believe that we should have community forum, but I am going to vote nay, not because of the community forum, but just the whole process wasn't followed by open meeting law, and I believe it's a violation of the law. So that's my no vote will be because of that.
Okay, so we have 4 ayes and 1 nay. Motion passes. Now we have acceptance of gifts and donations. I would like to review a few of these donations. Paradise Valley Unified School District, Melissa and Michael Szymanski, a Kid Walk Gate trainer of $3,000 for the special ed department. Sandpiper Elementary School, MB Consulting, Meg Brer's Design, an ice maker of $1,500 for school use. And Sky Crossing Elementary, Colleen A. Kohler and William G. Kohler gave a check of $5,000 to the site discretionary fund. We are grateful for all donations to our district, and we couldn't do what we do without everyone's help, and these donations are vital. Any board member, may I have a motion for acceptance of gifts and donations?
So moved.
Any board member wishing to make a comment? All those in favor of accepting these donations, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Um, Next on the agenda is call to the public. We have, please turn your attention to the video on the video monitors.
Call to the Public is about to convene. This portion of today's meeting allows the public the opportunity to address the governing board. Although state law does not require that the governing board hold a call to the public, the Paradise Valley Unified School District and its board have chosen to do so because we believe it's important to hear about concerns and issues from our community. While Call to the Public is not designed to be a discussion, the board is here to listen. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take any action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you and address individual concerns. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand, and to be able to do so in an open and collaborative way. All in attendance are expected to observe meeting rules as well as rules of politeness and decorum, so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner.
Tonight, we have 5 people who have submitted comment cards prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks. As a reminder, we ask that you please direct your comments to the board. First, state your first and last name when you come to the podium. Our first speaker will be Susan Winder, followed by Jennifer Ariza.
Good evening, Dr. Bales, board members, and cabinet members. My name is Susan Winder, and I'm a taxpayer in the PV School District. I'm going to change my comments tonight. I was going to speak about social studies and core knowledge, but after all the heart being poured out about school closing, I just want to add some comments to that. As a principal in Michigan, I was involved with redistricting. And as Mrs. Greenberg said, the same issues come up that come up with redistricting and school closing. I'd like to address 2 things. First off, the committee's work was outstanding. It was detailed, it was based upon data and hours spent, and actually I think they did a better job than my committee did back in Michigan, and I want to applaud them on that. They deserve that. Second, I'd like to speak to the parents. I'm sorry that so many of them left because they just shared their heartfelt thoughts. And I wanted to encourage them in 2 ways. When I was involved in that redistricting, the first day of school was very difficult, but within 3 or 4 months, you didn't even know that it had happened. The way the schools brings them in, and you have great plans for how they can bring them in, those kids will be fine as you go forward. And to the teachers who are very talented and have skills, maybe they can think about the fact that they can still take those skills and those talents to the school where they are, and they can make that the #1 school again for themselves. And that's just what I wanted to share tonight. Thank you.
Next is Jennifer Ariza, followed by Lily Grisham.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Riza, and I want to say thank you for the time that you put into your positions. I know it's a lot. I also want to thank you all for your professionalism and how you present and conduct yourselves in these board meetings. And thank you for the awards and recognition that you continue to do at each one of these sessions. I also really do appreciate the comments each of you provided back on the school closure issue, as it is very close to all of our hearts here. And to Dr. Bales, I just want to thank you personally for your years of service. And I know that we're going to have big shoes to fill when you leave, so thank you very much for the time that you've put in here. I also hope that the board has a wonderful holiday season with friends and family. As I stand here tonight as a concerned parent in the Paradise Valley School District, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. My concern as a parent in the district is the education and welfare of our students. As I stand here today, I want to declare that pornography should not be allowed in our schools. I am hopeful that this 2023-2024 school year will be the year that we as a community take a stand against approving any additional pornographic material for our schools. Our community is concerned about the increasing sexualization of our students, particularly as it is being pushed to lower and lower grades. Have any of our board members researched the effects of pornography on children? Does anyone think that pornography is helping the mental health of our students? Because pornography is used to train and desensitize people, and it increases the demand for human trafficking. Has anyone known someone who's been a victim of human trafficking? Do you know that Arizona is home to the largest human sex trafficking recovery program, and that we are taking elementary age children into this program? I wanted to highlight this for the board and ask each of you to consider if increasing the sexualization of material is helping to protect students. And do you think that continuing to add approved pornographic material and material that sexualizes children is something we should keep doing in our district? Or are we doing our teachers and students a disservice by allowing this to continue? What if the Paradise Valley School Board was known for putting an end to pornographic material being approved in our schools? What if each of you drew a line in the sand and said no more pornographic material on your watch? I would encourage you to give this serious thought as you continue to review material to approve this year and the future years that you serve. Thank you.
Lily Grisham, I believe she left, so Gina Griffiths, followed by Nicole Klutwick.
Good evening, President Case, members of the governing board, Dr. Bales, and the cabinet, and the 4 people left. It's been a really, really long night. I'm going to try to talk fast because I'm sure everyone wants to go home. Happy first night of Hanukkah. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday of whatever they celebrate. Y'all deserve it. I'll just be really fast. I want to talk to Dr. Bales tonight, even though I know I'm talking to all of you, but y'all get to listen. I don't know how long ago I first met you. Maybe 15 years ago, I served with Dr. Bales on a district committee. I really can't remember exactly how long it was. I just have old kids now, it seems like. When you were principal at Pinnacle, and I have always been so tremendously impressed by your commitment to students and your commitment to rigor in everything that we do, and being so thoughtful and so considerate in ensuring that we are meeting the needs of all of the students in this community. You've always been focused on meeting, someone said it in comments earlier, all of the students where they are at. And I am grateful. I'm grateful for the impact you've had here. I'm devastated that you're leaving. I'm devastated for all of you because it's going to be a really hard job for all of you to find anyone near as wonderful. But thank you, and I wish the very, very best for you moving forward, because you've given so much to this community, and I don't know that people really know all that you've done, and I feel privileged to have worked with you, so thank you.
Nicole Klutwick.
Thank you, everybody. Dr. Bales, thank you very much for all of your time and dedication. 25 years is a long time to spend with one employer, especially in this current age. And so it's very much appreciated, all of your time. and your dedication. And thank you all to the cabinet and the board. Something came up today that really, really greatly concerned me. It has nothing to do with school closures or open meeting or anything like that. And I really, I don't even know how to bring this up. I just want to ask the board to either look at the current policy into either filling a gap or creating a new policy. As you may know, the Department of Education is now publishing, and maybe they were before, but it's now becoming more public, publishing their disciplinary actions. And through the course of the last month or so, a couple different teachers who used to work at PVUSD have come up as having disciplinary issues here in the district. And the public wasn't made aware of these issues. And I understand if they're still being investigated, that maybe it's not right to let the public know what's going on. But when there's professional misconduct, especially when there's professional misconduct which involves a sexual nature, it's important that families are aware of that, and especially important that you're aware of that. I talked to somebody who used to be on the board, and they mentioned that you guys aren't told why people are leaving when teachers are fired. And that really, really worries me, because somebody other than a paid employee should be aware if there's professional misconduct and sexual activity going on. One particular person was reported by Scottsdale Unified School District to the Department of Education. Their previous job was PV, and the Department of Education's report said that they were let go from Paradise Valley because of well, it sure appears it was 4 days after report of a sexual activity on school grounds between students in his classroom. So that should be something that was in March of 2022. It's not that long ago. That's something that everybody who was on the board should have known about. And it should have been reported by our school district to the Department of Ed. It shouldn't have been waited until Scottsdale hired them, also had a sexual issue with them, and then finally got reported to the Department of Ed. So I just ask you to look at your policies and see what you can do. Thank you.
We have no items for discussion this evening. We've had a lot of discussion though. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind you that the next regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, January 11th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously.